The second half of Fight Club is all about how Tyler Durden has taken all the things Project Mayhem is supposed to rebel against, repackaged it, and sold it to his Project Mayhem stooges. The members of Fight Club just become copies of each other. They shave their heads, call each other maggots. They even lose their names.
In Project Mayhem, we have no names.
Like a monkey ready to be shot into space. Space monkey.
There's something painfully ironic about Tyler Durden's followers in the film Fight Club. Here we have a whole group of men who are drawn towards an individual for his self-actualization and independency of thought, only to become blind followers. A group of men who want to break free, who want to become their own man, and end up becoming space monkeys. What is this strange and contradictory phenomenon of men seeking enlightenment and ending up ignorant?
Rebelling against a system that's made them faceless drones, they become, well, faceless drones. And remember all that stuff about losing your balls? Well, testicles under the reign of Tyler aren't faring much better either. The movie gives us an early glimpse of what's to come as Tyler Durden just repeatedly punches this guy in the dick. Project Mayhem later threatens to cut everyone's balls off.
Publicly state that there is no underground group. Or, these guys are gonna take your balls.
Even its own founder.
You said if anyone ever interferes with Project Mayhem, even you, we gotta get his balls.
For Bob and the narrator, Fight Club has simply replaced the support groups in their lives, and they chat about their Fight Club days like one might talk about their weekly support group schedules.
I go Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I go Saturday.
Tyler acts like a strong father figure for the narrator and the rest of Project Mayhem.
I will carry you, kicking and screaming, and in the end, you will thank me.
But like the narrator's shitty father,
He left when I was like 6 years old, married this other woman, had some other kids. He like did this every 6 years. He goes to a new city and starts a new family.
We're setting up franchises.
Tyler abandons him. The most devoted members of Fight Club are put through intense hazing to become members of Project Mayhem. Before they can join, prospective members have to stand outside the Paper Street Mansion for 3 days without food or shelter and are verbally and physically abused. Those who tough it out are allowed inside the house and become part of a well-oiled machine that blows up computer stores, terrorizes politicians, and sends corporate sculptures rolling into coffee shops. As Tyler's movement gains momentum, it transforms from an after-school activity into a fascist cult that might just be as bad as the capitalism they rebelled against in the first place.
You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
Tyler built himself an army.
We are the all-singing, all-dancing crap of the world. We are all part of the same compost heap.
Project Mayhem operates through strict rules and systematic efficiency. They even rely on capital to run properly, and fund their activities by making and selling soap out of human fat stolen from a liposuction clinic. The difference is that now, instead of reporting to the demands of their corporate bosses, members report to their patriarchal authoritarian leader, Tyler Durden.
Sooner or later, we all became what Tyler wanted us to be.
Chapters begin springing up all over the United States. The narrator even calls them franchises.
Tyler had been busy, setting up franchises all over the country.
The entire time, Project Mayhem has been plotting toward a master plan, blowing up the offices of the credit card companies. The narrator discovers this plan,
Oh my god.
and also discovers that he and Tyler Durden are the same person.
Was that a pretty accurate description of our relationship, Tyler?
We have just lost cabin pressure.
Tyler Durden was the manly, virile complement to the narrator's emasculated helplessness. And if we recall when the narrator says early on that,
And suddenly, I realized that all of this, the gun, the bombs, the revolution, has got something to do with a girl named Marla Singer.
he probably means that his spiral into psychosis began when he needed to create an alter ego to be with her.
You were looking for a way to change your life. You could not do this on your own. All the ways you wish you could be, that's me. I look like you want to look, I like you want to I am smart, capable, and most importantly, I'm free in all the ways that you are not.
He's able to get rid of Durden by shooting himself in the face, but the damage is already done. The buildings collapse, supposedly to reset society's debt, although I'm not sure how that actually works. Just like Tyler and the narrator are two sides of the same person, for Adorno and Horkheimer, fascism and capitalism are two sides of the same coin. They argued that both fascism and capitalism see human beings as numbers instead of individuals, alienated objects to be used and controlled.
In The Denial of Death, Ernest Becker pondered the same question. He observed the folly of men who, throughout history, gave their loyalty to other men, and who, after snapping out of the spell and reflecting on it, would wonder how they believed so blindly and obeyed so willingly. How can a mature man be so fascinated, and why? He observed that the most reasonable explanation is that leaders tend to seem larger than life. They project a powerfulness that others are drawn to, and because men both worship and fear power, they give their loyalty to those who dispense it.
He's a great man. Do you know about Tyler Durden?
But this explanation, Becker continues, only touches the surface. Men don't become slaves out of mere calculating self-interest. The slavishness is in the soul. He argues that the fascination with a leader is found in the eyes of the beholder. Therefore, what needs to be explained is not so much the traits of the leader, but more so the experience of the follower. The question then posed by Becker is that if all people are more or less alike, why do we burn with such all-consuming passions for some of them?
No, wait, back up. Let me start earlier.
Before we get into the reasons men become infatuated with characters like Tyler Durden, we must first address their deeper desires and motivations, which, according to Becker, are the same for everyone when broken down to their most fundamental level.
Ironically, later on in the story, Project Mayhem, a terrorist organization led by Tyler that grows out of Fight Club, is a textbook example of conformity, as its members wear the same clothes, are absolutely equal, abolish their names, and are referred to as space monkeys that sacrifice their lives for a greater cause. We could say that by rejecting one doctrine in order to be non-conformist, we often imprison ourselves in another one.
The Fight with Tyler introduces the narrator to the idea of embracing pain and suffering as something that is as much part of the human experience as pleasure and comfort. Self-help groups only served him to deny the inevitable physical destruction of his human body. Fights, on the other hand, allow him to confront his own impermanence.
Hey, even the Mona Lisa's falling apart.
This sort of rewiring becomes very appealing to other last man types that witness the narrator fighting himself.
Hey guys.
They too are castrated by the life-denying, comfort-seeking and escapist culture of corporate America. Within a few weeks, a fight club is founded where men meet to fight on a weekly basis. In the basement of Lou's Tavern, the disaffected men find spiritual salvation in violence, for they rediscover the purpose of masculinity. The evolution of testosterone was not an accident. A man's natural traits are increased strength and aggression. This was essential to protect and provide for one's offspring, a role without which civilization would have never been possible. Contemporary society supplants the traditional role of the individual man with the state monopoly on violence. Consequentially, it feminizes men by suppressing their biological tendencies. Some men, however, will never be pacified. The truth of the matter is that men were created to suffer. Men were born to fight, and therefore, men were born to create. Creation, however, is not a passive process, as it requires the input of force. Nietzsche once formulated, every creation requires some form of destruction. The Übermensch is aware that his life will end in annihilation, so he overcomes the plain will to live and rather embraces the will to power. He shapes his environment through force to create something that will outlast his short existence. But in order to do that, he has to accept enduring pain, suffering and destruction as part of the process.
Fighting and the experience of pain play a significant role in Fight Club. At the beginning of the story, Tyler asks the narrator to hit him as hard as he can. He explains his strange wish by saying, "How can you know yourself if you've never been in a fight? I don't want to die without any scars." End quote. So the narrator hits him, Tyler hits him back, and the two engage in a fist fight. Both seem to feel surprisingly pleasant afterward and decide to do it again. Their nightly activities on a parking lot attract the attention of other men that are also interested in joining these non-hostile fistfights, and thus Fight Club is born. It's widely known that voluntary exposure to certain forms of pain make us stronger in the face of adversity, which could be a legit reason to partake in these fights. As the narrator states, after fighting, everything else in your life got the volume turned down. However, Fight Club is more than just a metaphor for dealing with hardship through exposure. A physical fight and the violence and aggression that goes with it resonates with the primal part of our being. Not only the men in the story are attracted to the violence of fighting. Fight Club as a movie and novel was so impactful on its audience that real-life fight clubs started to emerge. The story shows an experiment in which the members of Fight Club pick fights with random strangers and are supposed to lose, which isn't as easy as it sounds. Most people do everything to avoid physical conflict. Now, this video is in no way intended to endorse violence. But Fight Club makes us wonder if it's a good thing that we've lost touch with these primal tendencies. Should we repress this part of human nature or perhaps integrate it in healthy and constructive ways? When the story progresses, Tyler and the narrator begin to see the world through a different lens. Tyler criticizes the modern self-improvement hype by saying, "Self-improvement is masturbation, now self-destruction." This statement is slightly confusing, as the increasingly destructive nature of Fight Club, where faces are permanently mutilated and teeth are knocked out of people's heads, doesn't seem to be a sustainable way to live. But Tyler might be onto something when we look at self-destruction as the destruction of a false self. Self-improvement often points to the accumulation of external goods, a better house, a better job, a better body, more money. But why should we endlessly want to improve ourselves? Why can't we just be happy with how things are and take life as it comes? Or as Tyler states, I say never be complete. I say stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. Let the chips fall where they may. End quote. We create an identity through material wealth and social status. And as far as Tyler is concerned, this false sense of self must be destroyed before we are free to do anything we want. Therefore, Project Mayhem's space monkeys live by a mantra which goes like this. You are not your job. You are not how much money you have in the bank. You are not the car you drive. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not your khakis. You are all singing, all dancing crap of the world. End quote. Tyler makes a so-called human sacrifice, namely a man called Raymond who works a dead-end job in a convenience store. Raymond wanted to be a veterinarian, but didn't make it because it was quote-unquote too much studying. Tyler threatens Raymond, saying that if he doesn't start studying within 6 weeks, he'll kill him. In this scene, Tyler points to another aspect of self-destruction, the act of letting go of fears, negative self-talk, and all distractions, so we can fully focus on our purpose. It's the destruction of everything within ourselves that holds us back from living life on our own terms. Many people go great lengths when it comes to pain avoidance. The problem is that running from pain means running from an inevitable part of life. The prospect of incurring pain makes us anxious and often leads to hedonistic decisions, that is, choosing the less painful path, even if a more painful path guarantees more success and pleasure in the future. Tyler Durden deals with this by inflicting a chemical wound on the narrator's hand using a lie. As expected, the narrator does everything to escape the pain. He uses visualization techniques he learned at a seminar and retreating in his cave to find his quote-unquote power animal. But Tyler slaps him in the face, forcing him to stay with the pain, saying, "This is the greatest moment of your life, man, and you're off somewhere missing it." End quote. For the narrator, Tyler has one central goal. He must reach bottom. After putting him through suffering and destroying his false identity, there's yet another aspect that must be crushed. Hope. Losing all hope is freedom, and therefore he must reject what has rejected him, his father and God. I quote, Consider the possibility that God does not like you. In all probability, he hates you." End quote. Tyler states that we don't need God, that we shouldn't care about redemption and damnation, and if we're God's unwanted children, so be it. Thereby, we lose all hope, but are also liberated from religious doctrine and fatherly authority. Now we're truly free. Now we can create our own meaning and live how we want to live. Tyler emphasizes the importance of knowing what we want in life. To achieve this, we must be willing to get out of our comfort zone and jump into the unknown without safety brackets. The narrator, however, has difficulties letting go of security. He begs Tyler to not mess around when he lets go of the steering wheel in a driving car while hitting the gas. Tyler calls the narrator pathetic and yells, "Hitting bottom isn't a weekend retreat. It's not a goddamn seminar. Stop trying to control everything and just let go." After an inevitable car crash, Tyler states that they just had a near-life experience.